Heads up, female leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs. We have just opened enrollment for our next Renegade Accelerator. You can head to renegadeaccelerator.com to check out all of the information and apply.
If I can help change someone's trajectory on how they will be seen and heard, treated, seated at a table, or help them build their own table, then it's worth every sort of uncomfortable moment for me.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Constance Schwartz is on the show today. She's the co-founder and CEO of SMAC Entertainment. And SMAC is a talent management firm. It's a business incubator. And Constance has spent more than 3 decades in the sports, entertainment, music, and media verticals, where she's blended all of them together with talent and created a playbook that did not exist before. So I met her about 10 years ago and kind of watched her build this new way of doing things. And it's been incredible to witness the innovation, and she's a renegade through and through. So Constance has worked with and manages individuals like Erin, Michael Strahan, who is her fellow co-founder as well, Troy Aikman, who has been on the Why Not Now podcast, as well as Nikki and Brie Bella, who have also been on the show, and not to mention Snoop. She has done a ton of work with Snoop over the years. And so she mixes her experience in working with every single professional sports league and studio and network and blends them all together, creates products, new shows, new platforms that haven't existed before. And it's pretty amazing to watch her in action. In this conversation today, we talk about negotiating. She does share a few key tangible tactical tips, which I absolutely love. She talks about what it took for her to take a step over that, starting line as an entrepreneur more than 10 years ago. And she also talks a little bit about how she keeps a healthy relationship with time, because I'm obsessed. I have a healthy obsession with that at the moment. Constance might actually be the most interesting woman in the world when I think about it. She knows everyone. She can make shit happen. She knows how to get it done. And it appears she's having a really good time. A lot of fun doing so. So without further ado, here is Renegade Constance Schwartz. Constance, welcome to the Why Not Now show. I'm so excited to have you here today. And in the spirit of Why Not Now, let's hop in. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now?
Well, first of all, before I answer that, I want to say thank you. When I got the email, I literally started jumping up and down because I've been such a huge fan of yours, and we don't get to see each other enough. But out of sight doesn't mean out of mind. And just congrats to everything that you've built since that time we met through Brad Slater many years ago.
Hey, Brad.
Hi, Brad. I was thinking about this hard. And I think for maybe women in their 30s, it might be an easier question to just answer with one. But when you hit your mid-50s, there's multiple why not nows. And I'll kind of go in reverse, but the most why not now moment that comes to me specifically for our conversation is when I ended up starting SMAC Entertainment, the company that I co-own with Michael Strahan. There was a different iteration before, but it was honestly through the universe, I think, giving me the gift, because I'd always thought about it. Well, actually, I take that back. I didn't think about it. It was people around me, like my supporters, you know, my friends, my family, that would always say to me, why don't you go out on your own? Like, you're an entrepreneur at heart. You should just go out on your own. And growing up, I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I didn't know what kale was. I didn't know what sushi was. And now I am all like, I eat those and I'm an entrepreneur, but it's so scary as a blue collar kid, you know, who grew up in Yonkers, New York, who's fought for everything that I have today and continue to fight. To start your own business can be daunting. And I think when it's in your cards, the universe will give you a gift, which you might not know it's a gift at that time. But I got fired working at a management company. And as I started interviewing and figuring out what my next place was, every company I went to, they would say, well, you should just be doing this and stay in this lane, or you need to just focus on this, whether it was producing, management, brand partnership, strategic marketing, all of it. And I was like, no, you don't get it. Like, I grew up at the NFL and I spent my next decade working at the firm, managed Snoop Dogg. Like, we did everything. Like, everything I learned at the NFL, I've applied to all these steps in my career. And with my best friend at the time, he was looking for, you know, his next home. And we just said, let's, you know, rip off the Band-Aid and try this. And, you know, a year later, I was managing Strahan at the time and Deion Sanders, and had some corporate clients. And Strahan was just like always kind of around, like a little bee buzzing, whether it was learning the business side of things or just asking me to go to meetings with him. And I said, why don't you just become the third partner in this? And that's how SMAC was born.
And give me a timestamp there, because that's right around when we met, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was right. I think when we met, it was, let's see, what year is this now?
2010?
It was 12 years ago. So 2010, 2011. Yeah, it goes so fast, doesn't it?
Yes. And just the brands that you've helped take to that next, it's really a different hemisphere, but I've always appreciated your creative vision. And I think that's also, we have to kind of give credit to Brad Slater for bringing us together again, is that
Yes.
you're a pure renegade. You always have been. You don't do things the normal way.
Yeah.
And so what would you say, you know, that moment when you decided to do it and join and be that third partner co-founder, was there an actual moment where you just knew?
I knew the minute that I started it from my kitchen table. I was like, this is what's meant to be. And I'd saved all my money and I just said, I've got this. Like, I made sure I had enough money for the first year to cover the mortgage and just put everything else and put it back into the business. And I was at the Super Bowl that year. I don't even remember where. It might have been Miami, actually. And I was talking to Commissioner Goodell, who's a very dear friend and mentor and just one of the greatest people I know. And he's like, what are you doing now? And I said, I went out on my own. And he said, are you crazy? I said, what do you mean? He's like, look at the economy with everything going on. And I said, Roger, if I can't bet on myself, how do I go to these clients or these businesses and tell them to bet on me? I said, and if I fail, then I failed. And I've learned something and I'll move on from it, but I'm going to give it a shot. And fast forward, we were up at the NFL with Michael and we were pitching the NFL on Michael's clothing line that we launched together 10 years ago. And I reminded him of that story. And he said, you're welcome. He said, look at you now. He's like, if I didn't, you know, put that battery in your back, who knows where you'd be. So it was pretty funny. But that was probably two defining moments, you know, that helped. And I'm big on gut. It's like, just trust your instinct and your gut. Anytime I didn't, things went left. And it's just trust your gut. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a personal, you know, situation or whether it's business or whether it's a client thing, just whatever, you know, that feeling deep in your gut is telling you, you have to go with it. And let me tell you something. It's not easy. I look at friends that work at these big companies where they have an issue, they can go to their boss or they can go to their board. I'm where it stops. Like, yes, Michael Strahan is an amazing business partner, but I can't have him make the calls to cuss people out. I mean, he's a very respected news anchor and journalist. So the buck stopped with me many times. And that's something I think that's super hard. And managing people, as you know, is one of the toughest parts of owning your own business these days, especially. I think the world is starting to maybe shift to somewhere back in the middle where you have to work. I'm sorry. I just, I don't understand the people that think it's okay not to work. And let me clear this up before your renegades start texting. I'm not talking about somebody who's got children that's staying at home. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this generation that's entering into the workforce that just thinks, yeah, I'm going to work from home and call it in a couple hours a day. No. Like, yes, it's different than my come up in the 90s, but we are a society that functions based on contributions from the people in this society. And if we continue down this path, it's going to be very jarring in the next couple of years when other countries are coming up around us and just basically kicking our behinds. So I just went on a little tangent. I'm sorry.
No, we might actually go back there in a second because I'm on that. I'm definitely on that train right now and that talk track because and I'll kind of explain why, but it goes back to what you said about you realize, that moment where you had put enough money in the bank to pay your rent for a year and you did that. It seems that made you psychologically safe than to go trust your hustle for a year, right? You knew you could bet on your hustle for a year and it's
right.
And I love that combination of you had, a runway and you knew how long that was going to last.
Yeah.
But you also knew you were going to have to get after it. So it's that equal, I've got a little net, but not too much that I can't ease up. And so what a perfect balance you created. We were just in a Renegade session the other day and one of the Renegades, her brother is a musician and she was asking him, hey, do you ever worry about money anymore? And he looked at her and he's like, no. And there's actually a song that he wrote about trusting his hustle, but he's like, because I trust my hustle, I'll just do it again type thing, right?
Yeah.
And it made me think about entrepreneurs and the spirit that you have where here you are 10, 12 years down the road. What would you say to someone right now who's thinking, I think I'm going to green light this. I think I'm going to do it. What's some of the advice you would give them?
Don't take your foot off the gas. I mean, 10, 12 years later, I'm still working as hard as I did when I launched this. It might just be my energy might be put someplace different. But when you are an entrepreneur at heart, you just can't take your foot off the gas. I might want to sometimes, but it's just not in my DNA. I always joke, I'm like, you guys, I'm going to take the month of August off and just go to Europe or do something. And they all roll their eyes at me. They're like, yeah, right. And they're like, just try to take a week's vacation and not call us. And then we'll believe you. But that's probably the key piece of advice is you just aren't going to let up because as you grow, then becomes different areas that, again, you need to focus on. And it's okay not to know everything. I'm really good at what I know, but I'm better at what I don't know. And so I have a great team of advisors, whether it's our attorneys or whether it's the business managers or our publicists or, just even Commissioner Goodell, like people that have different strengths than I do that I can lean on and call and say, I'm not really sure how to handle this, et cetera. So there's nothing wrong with asking for help. I think especially as women, we're so afraid to ask for help because it shows vulnerability. But I listened to this TED Talk that Brene Brown did 12 or 13 years ago. And it was vulnerability is her superpower. And I heard that. I was like, wow, like it's okay to just say, I need help or I don't know. And that really, hit home for me, especially working, in such male dominated industries my whole career that you just were always like, I got to figure this out. I got to figure it out. Yeah, figure it out. But it's okay to ask somebody to help.
As I've watched you over, I'd even say the last few years, it almost seems like, and I'm excited about this, there's a craving to see what your world is like because we see the worlds of the people that you represent and you put on the screen or put on the, map in so many different ways. But has that been something you've been willing to share more and more of? Because seeing is believing, right? And I'm just curious of how that's felt to you with that potential kind of reinvention of how you show up.
It's interesting you've noticed that. I've been very behind the scenes my entire career. It's how we were raised. And I came out in front of the camera per se because it was the young women that either work at SMAC or just women that I'm friends with or that I mentor. And they said, you have the voice and you have the platform, and it's your duty. If you want change to be made, you need to be that agent of change, and you have to get out there. And I'm still so uncomfortable. It just goes against like what's in my DNA and in my brain. Like every time I put one of these CSA videos out, but the head of our social media is Scott Schwartz, so I have to shout out. He's made me very uncomfortably comfortable, if that makes sense. So I'm not comfortable doing it. I'm still uncomfortable, but I'm getting comfortable being uncomfortable, which is probably another great, I think, tool for us all to use, because when everything's comfortable, then maybe you need a new challenge. So this is my challenge. I've been doing more podcasts and, doing more on social media, more speaking engagements and things of that nature. Because if I can help change someone's trajectory on how they will be seen and heard, treated, seated at a table, or help them build their own table, then it's worth every sort of like uncomfortable moment for me.
I love seeing it. And I hope you continue. High five to your team for nudging you. And yeah, it really is important. And I think the cool thing that you have is you've been in a certain industry dealing with for the majority of the time. And there's most of the players, and not just meeting athletes or, but the power is held in men's hands. And you've been at that table for a very long time with a voice, with influence, with, but you've navigated it in a very effective way. And that is something that I still have a lot of women coming to me saying, how do I do this without coming across as XYZ? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it for me has just been experience and practice and just showing up, right? Like you confidence comes from competence, and that's doing and community, right? And feeling that you have a safe place to practice, or at least relatively. So I'm so excited to see more of Constance showing up.
Thank you. And I want to add on the point you made, the fact that I do work with all these strong men. They have my back more than anybody. And it's okay for women to have their male counterparts or their male business partners or just anybody. It's okay to lean on them. I am obviously the biggest feminist. I mean, my shirt says fight like a girl. I don't know if you can see that.
I love it.
But, that doesn't mean I have to figure this out by myself or with women only. So I think that's sort of a misnomer that I want more women to understand. There's nothing wrong with letting a man hold the door open for you, but then also asking him to help make an introduction or, pave a way, because they've been doing it a lot longer. And I shouldn't say that. They've been doing it in the norm for so much longer than us that it's now okay for them to use the privilege that they have to open those doors for us and build the bigger tables if we can't get the seat at their table.
That's leverage too. And it's cool to see more and more of that happening. Mm-hmm. And coming from the NBA, there was this mentality among, certain leadership who were few and far between as females at the top. And it was kind of like, we got to stick together because we're against them. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I get it. However, I couldn't agree more. It's something. So Brad Slater spoke at the Renegade Summit last year, and we talked about this on stage of how, he's one for me, when they send the elevator down, you get in and you go up and you send it back down if that's what it takes, right? And in certain situations, we're seeing more and more abundance and a little less scarcity in terms of at the table, even on the cap tables. So that's exciting.
Right. Yep.
So of your projects over the last decade, what are a few that have really lit you up the most? I mean, without acknowledging how you did everything you did with Michael Strahan, like there were moments in that season where I'm like, how is she getting him from here to here to here to here? Like it takes wizardry. But yeah, what are some of your top hits that you would say?
My goodness. And it is interesting, like with Strahan especially, it's a village. I mean, it takes a village. Like I might be speaking to you, but there's an army of people that are on the team that, make sure we enable him to have a balanced life, that it's not just about going from Good Morning America to flying to LA for NFL on Fox. And then, we takes vacation so we can shoot $100,000 pyramid, throw in going to space, with Blue Origin. I mean, talk about like out of this world. I mean, that was one for the books that probably goes, I mean, I know it goes into his top moments up there with, the birth of his children and Super Bowl. But for me, just being there, I was in awe of just seeing. We got to go in the simulator rocket and just, behind the scenes at like nothing I've ever been a part of before. And it was just mind blowing to know, like, this is my best friend, business partner, and client that I thought was a good idea to go into this capsule and shoot him up to space. Obviously, everything worked out. So that would be amazing. But some of the most proud hits right now, Erin Andrews, NFL on Fox sideline reporter, former Dancing with the Stars co-host, entrepreneur, Calm Down podcast host, and honestly, one of my best friends. We launched a women's line called Wear by Erin Andrews. It's a sports license line. It's by women, for women. And it's just cute things that are not bedazzled or shrink it and pink it or big flashy logos everywhere, because that audience that customer already has lines for them. But there's this whole other fan base of women that wanted to wear something that was, showed their team spirit, but you could still wear it out to dinner or the bar or to work. And so it took us 3 years to get it off the ground, but we're having a great time right now. We are partners with Fanatics on it, and we have the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, about 50 teams in the NCAA, and it keeps growing. And the feedback we get from our customers just makes us so excited and so happy, because we know that there was a demand for it, and we saw it, and we hear them, and we keep trying to grow. And to the sports leagues credits, they've all been very receptive of it. And so that's super fun, especially, I'm walking through an airport wearing a bomber, a varsity jacket. Someone's like, where do I get that? And I'm like, it's my line with Erin. It's like, just, you're so proud.
Congrats.
Thank you.
It's awesome. When you look at your relationship with time, Constance,
oh gosh,
let's go there, right? First of all, what comes to mind? But what are some of the things that enable you to have a healthy-ish relationship with time?
Your health and wellness comes before everything. I think we forget that. I do at times. I'm not going to sit here and preach like I'm just, so perfectly zen and balanced. Like I got to New York this week, and I barely had any time to work out, which impacts not just your physicality, but my mental health, which isn't good. So like tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, I've already said, like, I've got to make up for it. But I think it's so important, even if you're doing something in your house, with the computer or the TV, like you just have to stay fit and take care of your health. That really drives everything. And then friends and family, that was one of the hardest things about the pandemic, was being so isolated. It did bring my husband and I closer together, because we both traveled so much for work that I think the first couple of weeks we looked at each other, we're like, now what? But then, playing Rummy Cube, and we lived by the beach. So, we'd put our masks on and go walk on the beach or things like that. But it's so important. We're bi-coastal between LA and New York. So LA, we've got a Pilates instructor that comes 3 days a week for us. In New York, the gym's right across the street. Just can't instill that enough, that no matter what, just do that, because without your health, it's just not a fun life. I'm very close to my mom. She's 97 and super healthy, lives around the corner from me. So she gives me so much, peace and balance, and really is talk about, mama time staring you in the face. It's, enjoy them. And I just love talking to the older generation. I don't think they get enough respect. There's so much wisdom to be learned from them on just the simplest, pieces of advice in life. So those are a couple of things. And then where time keeps beating me is just not taking enough vacations and time to myself. And when I say vacation, it doesn't mean you've got to spend money on some big elaborate, expensive trip. It just means take a day, have a staycation, even just put the phone and the computer down for a day and just recharge the battery. I think that's really what I need to be better about is recharging my battery.
Same here. It's
you get it. And you have a 4-year-old. Like, I don't have any kids at home. I have a lot of kids in my life that didn't come from my body, but it's definitely a lot.
Here we go. The next Renegade Accelerator is open for enrollment. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. If you are a female executive, founder, leader who is in a season of expansion, in a season of big things happening or about to happen, and you want to create a healthier relationship with time, with money, and more of it, by the way, as well as learn about how to really increase your thought leadership, build your personal brand to get yourself on more stages, board seats, even potentially cap tables if you are interested in investing or want to expand your education around investing. But more than anything, what we have here is a container of leverage. We have a lot of women who are from all different verticals, and we're fiercely focused on each other's personal and professional goals. The things that happen within this Renegade Collective are hard to even explain, to be honest. So if you are in a season of reinvention, or you want to be very soon, head to renegadeaccelerator.com and check it out. You can apply. We are going to close the doors here soon and get started. And if you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. You must go somewhere you've never gone. You might as well come along with us. Renegades write the rules. You might as well start now, because why not now? Well, and it's interesting. I was just talking to our COO about this the other day. We love what we're doing and we love what we're growing, and you see those results. Right. And so it can almost be addictive.
Yeah.
We have to be extremely self-aware of that, because you can take it too far. And I was giving a talk the other day, and this woman said something like, when things start to get busier or I'm needed more, I just start waking up earlier. And that was the pattern. And then she realized, oh, actually, there's got to be another way. This isn't, and that's where the whole asking for help or delegating, deleting, we have this term ruthless priorities around our office lately. And it's like, nope. So I'm curious to hear, your negotiating skills must be incredibly sharp. Are there a few things that you see other people do that you're thinking to yourself, oh, I wish I could tell them to do X, Y, Z instead? Because we all want to hear.
It depends if I'm negotiating against them, then no, I'm not going to tell them.
No, of course.
The key to negotiating is, whether it's, for a client or for yourself or, whatever it is, a project, are you willing to walk away? That gives you all the leverage in the world. So how important is it, whether it's a point, or whether it's the whole deal, like, you have to just, like you said, ruthless prioritize the deal points, because a negotiation is just that. It's a negotiation. You're not going to win. Both sides have to come away with feeling good. And even though they're going to definitely feel like, oh, I left things on the table. I don't think I've ever had a contract where I got every single thing I wanted. I might have gotten 9 out of 10, but 10 out of 10, it's so rare that it happens. And I think if it does happen, it's probably not the right deal for you, because why are they so willing to give everything up is how I look at it. And same from our side. So it's truly ruthless prioritize, like you just said. I love that. And decide, what can you absolutely not live without? And that will help you how you go into the negotiation. And I've also, this is what works for me, be tough, be fair, be kind. You don't need to go into something and just be an asshole. Like, whenever somebody comes out swinging, I just am like, you're going to lose, because I'm not going to take this. I'm going to stay calm until I'm not. And then it's going to be even worse for you, because all those things I was willing to cave on, now on principle, I'm not going to give on those. So it just, life's short, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. It doesn't mean anyone's going to walk all over you, but you don't have to come into something and just be nasty about it. And be very prepared. Like, have your notes. Like, we all know contracts can be 20 pages long. Get your highlighter out, highlight the key points, write them down, and then you have that in front of you when you're going in to do the negotiation.
I love it. That's good. And everybody needs to walk away feeling good about the deal. Otherwise, you're starting off on the wrong foot anyway. And you don't want to do that, right?
The best deals are the ones where you never even refer to the contract. And I say that because we have a lot of those where I'll have a client who, if I'm making this up, they have to do 3 posts. If they're loving this deal, they're going to do 20 posts, And so I just closed something, and out of the first 2 days, the person on the other side said, well, in the contract, I said, I'm going to stop you right now. I said, because if we start this partnership off by you telling me what's in the contract, let's rip it up right now. I said, because we did this based on good faith for both sides, knowing that it's going to just be riding the wave together. So I don't ever want to hear that come out of your mouth unless it's a full breach. I said, and I won't do that to you either. And so it was a great reset in the beginning, because otherwise it would have just out of the gate. And also, what's important, know what your client is willing to do. And what I mean by that, we have a couple of clients that hate satellite media tours. They hate them. They hate the radio part of it. They hate just sitting there and going through all the local news broadcasts. And there's nothing wrong with that. I have other clients that love doing that. So when we go into a deal, we say, this person won't do this. They'll do more of this, which I think is beneficial because they have such a huge social media following. And if that's not going to work for you, then it's a deal breaker, because if we force them to do it, they're going to sit on those interviews and just not give it all they have. So I think that's another important negotiating tactic.
That's good too. I love the coming from the NBA and also coming from so much time you've spent in pro sports. The way we were taught to sell is so fully integrated anyway. It was all about the relationship, all about the partnership versus the transaction. And so when I see that, I just it doesn't click. Like, how could you have any kind of, 1 + 1 should equal 11 if you're doing this right? But it's still some of the old school media buying. So I heard someone say the other day, we've got real friends and we've got deal friends. When I say that to you, what does that mean? Are you used to doing deals with people that you're not a huge fan of, but it's worth it?
Yes. And that's where it goes back to, just don't burn bridges, and just go into a negotiation with, with kindness and respect. There are certain people that we just know we can't work with. And usually there's at least a few different folks, in a company that will circle back with the boss and say, I think for us to have a productive partnership, it's best that we don't deal with that person. But on the deal of friends, there's certain people you just know you're going to get through it. I don't need to go to a dinner. Let's go have drinks instead. To help close it. But, I also use the analogy, life's like a bullseye target. When you're in your, late teens, college, 20s, you've got everybody on the outside. Like it's just like your whole life is all about the friends. It's like 20 best friends. But every decade, it gets smaller and smaller, as it should, because everyone has different phases of lives. Doesn't mean you don't love or like each other anymore. It's just don't have as much commonality with you. And so now here I am in my mid-50s, and I'm still really tight with my college roommates, for example. And we're like, we're the bullseye. That's what it's about. And I've been so lucky that in my 40s, I've even made great friends that have stayed in the main circle. So similar to real friends and deal friends, I think the bullseye for me is like, are they going to make it in the bullseye? No. And that's okay. Like, you could still have somebody that's out on the 4th ring, but going back to what you said about time, it being so precious, do I really want to waste a night with somebody that's all the way on the outer ring of the bullseye target?
100%. I've never heard that analogy, but it's now in my brain. And yeah, it is, we vote with our time, and our priorities aren't what we say we do. They're what we actually do. And that's where it can get, it's pretty clear. How do you invest in yourself?
Oh, I don't do that enough. Michael's the first one to tell everybody, like, I will fight tooth and nail to the, death for my squad, my clients, my friends, my family. But for me, I'm just like, all right, just something as silly as I need to return and it's past the 30 days, but I was traveling, so I wasn't home. I'm like, forget it. I'm like, I'll just give this to my niece, and it's like, why do I do that? Like, I don't have the answer for that one. If any of your listeners, Renegades, know, give me a call. But I would say, like, I got married a lot later in life than most people. I got married at 46, and investing in that relationship is so important. When we do finally take a trip together, I'll do my emails in the morning, while he's still sleeping, or, something, just so it's not taking time away from like our time together, because marriage is work. And I know it tells you it's not. And I just think it's really, really important. I have a very patient, supportive husband. Shout out to Michael Strahan. But that doesn't just mean we can keep working and not worry about working on the relationship. And when let me take this one, go back. I did invest in myself after I turned 40. I'd stepped down from being Snoop's day-to-day manager, still obviously consult and work with Snoop and his wife and the kids and everybody, but just from being at the epicenter of all of it. And I went to a dating coach. Yes, there are dating coaches. And this was at the beginning of the dating apps, which just weren't for me back then. But that was where I just said, I need to invest in myself, because if I can hustle like you're broke mentality for all my businesses, for my projects, for my clients, why am I not taking myself seriously? Because I wanted to meet somebody. So that was a real like mental awareness of something I needed to do to invest in myself. So that was probably the biggest one. And then investing in myself now, I would probably say it goes back to what you said about being addicted to what we do, the good and the bad. I love it. I mean, I'm hitting my stride at this point, even though we've been doing it for 10, 12 years. There's so many new projects happening and so much growth happening with our business, and just seeing people that were my interns leading departments at SMAC now.
That's awesome.
That's an investment in myself, because it means like that's my legacy, right? Is leaving the world a better place than how we found it. It's helping others is for me an investment in myself.
That's cool. That's so cool, especially when it's your own company, because that is a win-win-win-win for everybody. Yeah. Triple bottom line. So this is just something I've been so hyper-focused on lately, so I'm curious to hear, maybe you can help me. But I realized the other day I had like 63 or 70 unopened text messages, and I'm sure that you've been there, where I learned how to do an autoresponder on text, which I'm happy to do and show a demonstration.
To teach me? Yes, yeah. Because I literally said that I know there's a way to do it. I just don't know how. So yes, please.
I'm happy to. You go in, if you're on an iPhone, you go into the driving focus, and there's an autoresponder. And even when you're not driving, you can turn it on, and you can
just put that on.
Customize it though. You can customize it, and that's the key. But the amount of inbound communication, and even with an EA and or chief of staff and all those things, you are you. And I remember that world to a certain extent when I had the celebrity clients and talent, and there isn't anyone else that can replace you. So how do you manage all of that inbound communication and everybody needing things?
So I always have my assistant have access to my email. And I say, go through it. Whatever you see I didn't answer at the end of the day, let me know the next day what I have to get back to, because there are only so many hours in a day and we can't be on these devices 24 hours. On the texts, those are getting out of control now. The only good thing is, at least it's a little bit easier to find the unread ones when you scroll through them. And honestly, I stopped beating myself up. If someone has to send me a follow-up, it is what it is. Like I try really hard to get back to people right away, but sometimes you just can't do it. And I just say, hey, sorry, it's been a crazy week and here's the answer now. Because I have no problem doing that to other people, because I know what they're going through. I don't take it as a sign of being disrespectful. I think we're all just, unfortunately, we're just handcuffed to our emails and our texts. And now people DM you. And I'm just like, please don't do that, because I don't have the time to check the DMs, especially people you don't know. I don't even handle my own LinkedIn page. So it's sometimes I'll go on like maybe twice a month, and I see people, I'm like, I'm so sorry, that I didn't see this, but it's it's life. I don't, if you have any tips, I would love to know, but the key for me is having my assistant go through my emails.
I think something you just said actually is extremely helpful about the text, and that is at some point you can't allow that to add anxiety, or you know, the cognitive load already is one thing among the entire job, but that's something that you have to be able to manage and kind of emotionally regulate yourself versus getting worked up about it. And let it go, right? You will get back to the most important ones, and here we are. So
here we are.
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
I don't know about you. I know I'm older than you. I think a lot of this came with age and experience. And when people say, like, what advice would you give your younger self? Those are some of the things. Like, just trust the process. Have more faith in myself. It's okay, to just breathe and let things go. Stretch. I didn't understand what my core was. So even in the middle of the day, I got the walking treadmill desk, I got the stand-up desk, I do all those things. It's so important, but it's all going to be okay. Like, I just wish I could look back, to my 30-year-old young woman and just say, like, it's all going to be okay. It will.
Same. And a little bit of ease up, sister. Like, you'll go further if you just simmer down a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's also the superpower. So when you do look back and if you were to go to yourself sitting at that kitchen table and like looking at the numbers and, okay, I got rent covered, here we go. Is there really anything else you would say other than it's all going to work out?
It would have gone back to trusting my gut. Just there's a couple things I would have definitely done differently. But I just didn't trust my gut. I didn't trust myself. And that'd probably be the first thing. That sixth sense, or whatever you want to call it, that, just strong feeling, trust it. That's a big one for me.
Is there any specific thing you do to listen louder to that voice, your gut?
I don't know that's specific. I mean, I talk things out, with my team, because they all pretty much know me at this point really well. And I'm just like, am I wrong on this? And everyone's like, oh, no. And it's like, okay, like, it's good validation. And same thing with Strahan or Coach Prime, just any of them, like, because we run so many businesses together that, I lean on them. And I mean, I have to say, because they've been in the spotlight their whole lives, whether it's Coach Prime, whether it was Michael or Tony or Erin, they're used to that. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, did we make a mistake? Because look at what some of these people are saying. Like, don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to the noise. We know we made the right decision. It's going to be okay. Don't listen to the noise, and that's something I think we all have to work better on. Haters are going to hate. End of story. They want to build you up, then they want to tear you down, and then want to build you up again. So put your blinders on and just go and not worry about it. Easy to say, hard to do,
Right. But when you surround yourself with people who are like-minded that have that experience, it's a pretty good container of insurance, I would say.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, okay. And what keeps you up at night? Anything specific?
Oh gosh. I mean, what doesn't? I'm like a rotisserie chicken, sleeping just back and forth, because my head starts going. What's the next big thing for us, in the sense that we came out of the pandemic strong. We're very lucky. We didn't lay anybody off. We didn't furlough people. Like, we were able to just, kind of ride the craziness, but we were prepared and ready to go once production started back up, once manufacturing was open again, once the stores were open again. So for me, it's, okay, how do I build off the core platforms? So whether it was, we launched the broadest collection, scarf collection with Snoop and his wife Shantae, boss lady, and their children in the middle of the pandemic. So it took us 2 extra years. And you're just like, okay, now that we're back, how do we press that turbo booster behind it and make that go? And the frustration so many times is we're reliant upon a retailer. If it's a production, we're reliant upon the buyer. So what I'm focusing on right now is looking at potentially bringing an investor into the business, which Michael and I have never done, to help scale the business. Because again, I've trusted my gut. There are certain projects that I know can go, but if we just had that extra capital to do it ourselves, I don't need to wait the 6 months, because the big box retailers buying season isn't until February 7th week. And it's like, okay, but Snoop Doggy Dog's pet line needs to go now. We can't wait till next year. So it's that, or even on a production. Again, there's so many projects that buyers might pass on, but 6 months later, we get the reports from the agencies that says what buyers are looking for, and it's the project that they just passed on, and you want to bang your head against the wall. And like, that's it. I want to self-finance these projects myself, and then I'll do a time buy even if I have to. I want to build my own library. So there's that. And then it's the people, that work with us, or the hiring, and how do you make sure that I'm getting the most out of them? How do I make sure that they're happy doing what they're doing? And then how do I navigate this new generation? We've been an in-office company as soon as it was safe. I let everybody work from home on Fridays. That's my compromise. But if that doesn't work for, the employee, we're not the right company, and they can go on and do something else. Like, we don't compromise on that. It just, we're too creative, and everybody does too well being in the room together and just walking down the hall and things like that. Just, I'm not saying that goes for everybody, but for us, it definitely works. And it makes me sad seeing the 20-somethings not having the same experience as we did. I spent my 20s in New York City and just going out all the time, and whether it's other friends' apartments or going just to the local bar or out to dinners, and just being together and just being in that office. Some of my closest friends that stayed in my bullseye were people I met at the NFL. They're people I met at the firm. Like, they're my ride or dies. And if I didn't have that in-office experience, I wouldn't have that. And it also helps with networking. I mean, Jose Diaz, who heads up brand partnerships at SMAC, I think if we checked our DNA, he's probably somehow the other related to me, because he's just like my younger self, who he will be out every night networking, meeting, new people, and just everybody wants to work with him. And that also makes me so proud and happy when I hear from other people, like, how much they love working with our team. I think that's a great reflection on the bosses.
I agree. And also just the transfer of knowledge and the ability to learn quickly when you're around and you have boots on the ground. I see that with our team too. It's when we're in person, we're accelerated, just with that learning curve. Okay. So final question. When I say the word renegade, who comes to mind?
Oh my gosh. My mom. Honestly, my mom.
Who's 97, you said?
97. She says to me all the time, she's like, I was born like 50 years too early. She said, I know if I was born later in life, I would have been the CEO of a company. And I get my drive from her. I get my sensibilities from her. I get my compassion from her. Not enough, but, she raised me as a single mom, and just always, 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 when, not if. And Michael's father was like that too. When you get that job, when you close that project, not if, when. And it's a mindset, and that mindset is contagious. And when we get a no, it's a maybe, in my opinion. I'm like, okay, might be a no from you, but I'm going to go around and go to this person. But probably her.
Oh, I love. What's her name?
Pizza. Yes, it's Pizza. Petsa. Constance Schwartz. Yeah. In Greek, her name was Calliope, but when it was translated, it's Pizza.
It's beautiful. I couldn't agree more. Early day podcast 6-7 years ago, I had a column with my spreadsheet, and it was, guests that I wanted to get on, and Oprah. And I did get a response, but she was filming in, I think, New Zealand. And so they said, she's on set. And I was like, an NRN, not right now, but it wasn't a no, right?
Right.
Like, I got an NRN from Oprah. I did not.
Right. You'll take that.
Come back to it. Yeah. But you've rocked your career and really paved a path that I've had so much respect for in watching you navigate. Thank you. Absolutely. I'm so excited to watch and see what you create next and continue to follow. And we'll be right there alongside. And
I can't, when I
you.
got the email, I mean, I think I said at the beginning, I started jumping up and down. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, I've made it. Like, I just respect you so much. And, you know, to be on your podcast with the people that you've had on, it's just to be in their company. It means so much to me. So thank you.
Oh, you're so kind. Well, it's a mutual affinity, 100%.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?